All right, ladies and gentlemen, are you guys excited for an actual PvP guide, like a TBC Paladin PvP guide? Oh boy, this is still in theory crafting, but someone somewhere has actually done their damn homework. So apparently we got some things to talk about here. Where's the one I want? I want specifically this one. Yeah, Paladin regen burst. This is not right. This is not the right one. Let's get the right one. Facts and figures. There we go. This might be a little bit of a long video, but I actually got on a private server and I looked at all the different classes, like typically what you'd find them having in arena. I wrote down how much damage you can expect each ability coming out of that class to do, how much mana cost it has, what its cast time is, blah, 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 blah. Like for a Warlock here, their primary damage source is Shadow Bolt. 1500, 2300 criticals. The mana cost, the cast time is more important, 2.88 seconds for Warlock, and then some notes over here. They have a very low crit chance, what Tongues does, and what Curse of Elements does. Okay, so you can look at this at your leisure, but I really need to talk about what I've learned from looking at everything in general, because that's going to play by far the biggest part compared to like specifics. And what I learned in general is basically down here. Why is this? Okay, that's better. I couldn't see it right here. Okay, so what I learned is the vast majority of the burst damage in the game is only about half as much as you see in classic World of Warcraft, right? So the burst is about half as much. If we go back to the other one, you can really start to see this. So I was unable to find a burst combination out of an opposing class that really did more than 3,000 damage. You can do a wombo combo, which is you're charging up a nuke spell like a Shadow Bolt or a Frost Bolt, and then it's followed immediately by an instant cast spell, right? You can do the wombo combo, but I really don't consider the wombo combo to be technically burst, and we'll get into why. It has primarily to do with Argent Defender. What else we got going on here? Yeah, so to take Chain Lightning, for example, here. Chain Lightning. I have it noted that there's no ×3 hits from Chain Lightning in TBC, apparently. So the Chain Lightning will actually do like 6,500 damage split over like 3 targets. But if it's hitting like a single target, it at best is going to hit for like 3,100 on the single target. It might get some bounce, like it might hit you, it hits your partner, and then it hits you again. If everything is a critical, then it's basically going to do like maybe 4,500 damage. That was actually the highest damaging burst I found was Elemental Shaman. But apparently, if you look at like the arena comps and all that stuff, Elemental Shamans aren't theoretically a thing in arena comps, which I find interesting. Maybe they are in 5s, maybe they are in 3s, but typically where we're going to be living in 2s, it's apparently it's not a thing. So I'll just take their word for it. All right, so the highest damage source I was able to find is maybe they get 4,500 damage on you with a Chain Lightning. Everything's critting. Things with the Shaman, I guess, have the potential of, where's the effect? Yeah, so there's a chance that their lightning spells deep in the lightning tree do like another mini spell for like 50% of the damage. Lightning bolts were hitting pretty hard, about 3,000, super mana efficient, the lightning bolts. Yeah, so it's the wombo combo. Okay, so at best, they might Chain Lightning Earthshock you, and if everything is critting, they're going to do 4,000, 6,000, 7,000 damage. But that was like the highest possible wombo combo I could find. By far more common was about 1,500 base, and then like ×2 for crits. So if we go down here to Shadow Priest, they might be blasting you for 1,500 base, and then like a 2,300 crit. Not very scary. SL Warlocks were mostly dotting monsters, and without access to their dot damage, their standard DPS complement is actually really, really bad. 2.88 second cast times on their Shadow Bolts. They hit for 1,500. They crit for 2,300. That's really bad. Shadow Priest, we covered that. Frost Mages had a little bit of wombo combo possibility. 3,100 crits, and then if they Fire Blast you, it can get up to like another 1,800, or Cone of Cold, it might be like 1,400. So they can wombo combo you for potentially like 5k. But it's nothing like Classic World of Warcraft. To put this in perspective, in Classic World of Warcraft, we're used to getting hit for like sometimes 60% of our health bar, and like a single thing comes our way, or a single wombo combo. Like Chain Lightning Earth Shock is bitch slapping us for like, oh god, like 4,000 damage or something in Classic World of Warcraft out of our like 5,000 mana bar. So it's taking away like 75% of our life in 2 spells, whereas it's going to be doing. Whereas it's much more common to be taking at most like, a 5k damage hit. 5k damage hit's only going to be like 40%, maybe less than 40% of your life, like 37% of your life in TBC. So burst damage, as near as I can tell, is about half. In TBC, I'm putting my foot down. Burst damage is about half. If we're walking Argent Defender on our Paladins, which is basically what this video is going to be about, when we get around to what I'm suggesting to use in an arena setting, which is 2 Argent Defender Paladins. I suppose I should get into that real quickly. So the idea I have in my brain for a viable, a really terrifyingly viable, very competitive, probably can take it all the way to Gladiator composition in arena for TBC. Mind you, this is pure theory crafting mode. I haven't actually tested it yet. My internet is complete shit. And a lot of the ratios and stuff are going to change come actual Classic, so I'm not even going to bother testing it. We're just going to pure theory craft right now. Is you take into arena 2 Paladins, 2 Argent Defender Paladins. So Paladins that come down here, they get Argent Defender, they might pick up 1 point in Holy Shield. This is actually something that's not entirely necessary, but why not? We're down here. And instead, you could get more stamina if you really wanted to, but there's no point to it. We're going to talk about why Argent Defender is so stupidly amazing, and why 2 Argent Defender Paladins are fucking terrifying together in a TPC context. I've looked at everything at this point. I've looked at the amount of burst damage people have. I've looked at the amount of sustain people have. I've looked at the healing tempo and the CC in the game, and blah, 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 blah. What's really scary about this Paladin build, in my opinion, when you take 2 Argent Defender Paladins is Paladins synergize really well with other Paladins, but only certain types of Paladins synergize well with other Paladins. For example, a Holy Paladin and a Deep Ret Paladin, even in TBC, don't have very good synergy, because only one can heal and the other one can't heal. It's kind of like Classic World of Warcraft. The only synergy that they're really gaining together is they do have anti-CC protection, in the sense that in order to lock them down in CC, to stop either one of them from cleansing the other one out of the CC, you have to throw out 2 CCs, and then they only have to use up a 1 PvP trinket or 1 bubble between the 2 of them, of which they would have 4 available, right? They only have to use 1 anti-CC and then immediately cleanse the other guy out of his CC. That's the only real advantage that you get out of that. But they can still they could lock down, theoretically, the Paladin that can heal, and then the other Paladin can't heal, and it's just really bad. So you only get about half the synergy when you're pairing up certain types of Paladins. By far the scariest Paladins in combination with each other are what we call in Classic would be a Holy Reckoning Paladin paired with a Holy Reckoning Paladin. And the reason for that is because there's no soft targets and they can both heal. So it's like whatever target you're attacking is going to get Reckoning charges and is going to be a monster. And you can't really lock either one of them out from healing or CCing, because the other one can just pick up the healing duties if they have to. And it's just an absolutely nightmare to try to take on two Holy Reckoning Paladins, particularly if it's a 2v2 scenario, which is what we're going to have at Arena. Now, the Holy Reckoning Paladins got some buffs, and the Holy Reckoning Paladins got some nerfs in TBC, but the big boy talent isn't really Reckoning anymore in TBC. It's Argent Defender, and we're going to have like a whole spiel about why Argent Defender is absolutely fucking broken. But we'll get to that later. What else? All right, so the Arena comp I'm thinking about is, you got 3 floating talent points here, as you can see down here. And I'm thinking that one Paladin picks up 3 out of 3 in Vindication. Eye for an Eye is also on the table. You could potentially get Eye for an Eye as like a solo. Oh, I think you can. Yeah, you strip that out of here because you technically don't need it. We'll talk about why later. And you pick up like Eye for an Eye, blah, 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 blah. Seal commands on the table. So there's some options for like if it's just you and you want to party in like a BG or something like that. But as far as Arena comps are concerned, I'm thinking one class is getting 3 out of 3 Vindication. It's not being used predominantly for, how do I put this? We're taking the Vindication mainly because we want to cut down on the enemy's spirit, not so much like they're sustained over time. Not so much that we want to cut down, like we're super interested in cutting down their actual combat stats. Argent Defender and Holy Shield and Reckoning are absolutely going to shit on melee classes. Melee classes are absolutely not going to stand a snowball's chance in hell against this comp. And it's really only going to be the endurance-based comps that I hesitate to say stand a chance against this composition, but, you know, that is the terminology, I guess. So one Paladin goes 3 out of 3 Vindication. The other Paladin puts 3 points into Improved Concentration Aura. What this basically does is it allows us to get away with only 4 points in Spiritual Focus, and if you want to be a pimp, you could technically only do 3 points in Spiritual Focus for each Paladin, and that would give you, what is that? That's like a 92% chance to, it's either 100% or 92%, and then you can take these extra points and put them someplace else. 1 extra point, like you pick up some extra spirit, you make your Holy Shield a little better, you do whatever it is you want. Maybe you get another point in Vindication, don't know if they stack, blah, 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 blah. Maybe pick up a command, don't know. But anyways, yeah, so one guy gets the Improved Concentration Aura. It allows basically 1 extra talent point that each Paladin gets to put someplace else. And I'm thinking that the other Paladin puts 3 out of 3 in Vindication, just because why the hell not? I'm also come around to, before I had like 5 out of 5 in Deflection, but I've come around to the fact that Improved Judgment is probably the way to go, because you guys technically, even though you're not going to want to do this in this composition, you technically have 2 Hammer of Justice stuns that can be used back to back, so you can stun a target for like 9 seconds. And what's nice about having an 8-second cooldown on your Improved Judgment is it's very easy to get off. It's very easy for the 2 Paladins to get out 4 Judgments inside of that 9 seconds, on top of 2 Consecrations and everything else that you can do within that amount of time. So even though it's just nice, I guess. Maybe you only need 1 point here, but whatever. You don't really need the deflection too much. It's subject to change. But anyways, so what do I want to talk about first with this spec? Right. So the idea behind, right. We need to talk about gearing. That might be a thing. I want to talk about stuff over here. I want to talk about gearing. I want to talk about there's a lot to talk about. Jesus. Okay, so let's talk about overall strategy. So the primary strategy when you're taking into combat 2 Holy Reckoning Paladins, or in this case, we're going to probably have to call them 2 Argent Defender Paladins, is Argent Defender Pallies. Oh, I guess I have a little bit for this. Yeah, okay, here we go. So Paladins have this weird thing that they can do where we don't have to use our judgment. Like, we don't have to consecrate, we don't have to use our judgment, and we can be very, very stingy on ever coming out of spirit regeneration. And what this means is that, and also you could say we're auto-attack Andes, so the amount of globals we actually have to use is very limited. But Paladins have this weird feature where we can pick between one of these 3 modes. We can either use 100% of our DPS output and get like 30% spirit regeneration uptime, or we can do about 90% of our DPS output with 50% regen uptime, or we can do about 80% of our DPS output with about 80% spirit regen uptime. This is also, this isn't against a target dummy. This is also factoring in the fact that you might have to throw out stuns, you might have to heal yourself, you might have to stop and heal your partner, right? You might have to cleanse, you might have to use globals for other things. We have the ability to maintain high amounts of DPS without breaking spirit regeneration, and I'm thinking in the gearing that these two paladins are supposed to lean into this heavily, because what this means is we can very easily end up in this this second statement right here, which is you end up on the paladins with this terrifying mix of this thing will not die, I can't kill it, it never runs out of mana, and holy shit, why is it doing damage while being able to do all of this? So Paladins by far have the best mixed performance if you gear them to do it correctly. They can be the most tankiest, do the most damage, and have the most mana regeneration and sustain when you compare it to any other class or spec or build. Other classes can do any one of those three things better, or possibly any two of those three things better, but they can't do all three simultaneously. And Paladins will do all three simultaneously, like leagues above any other competitor, and they'll just grind things into pulp. All right, let's see here. What do I want to talk about? Okay, so I talked about like the mana cost, the fact that I wasn't really finding any burst anywhere. I guess I need to talk about Argent Defender. We're trying to talk about gearing. All right, so I did a video before this. My current plan with gearing is to try to hit certain breakpoints of a combination of plus healing and plus damage. And I'm particularly interested in gear that has like spirit on it. Hold on, I might want to pull that up here, but okay, I'll just talk about the general idea. Very interested in gear that has spirit on it. So my plan is to try to move away from the PvP gear sets as much as possible. Try to move away from the ornamented or the lamellar PvP sets, and strip out a number of pieces in exchange for items, ideally like Boots of Divine Light here. Now, why Boots of Divine Light are so amazing here is because they actually have more stamina than the lamellar boots. They come with a not an insignificant amount of damage, but the sockets give them way more stamina, and it has spirit, and since paladins can really benefit from spirit regeneration, oh baby, yeah, give me that spirit, is basically what I'm saying. There's a few other good examples. Basically the way what I've noticed is anything that has the spirit gear loves to give blue sockets, and anything that is giving blue sockets tends to be stamina competitive with the PvP gear at an equal level. Another good example, let's see over here. This is not, oh yeah, I guess we got to talk about this one pretty soon. Where are you? Oh, you're just a weirdo. Okay. Let's find another example. Gloves? Is there an example? Okay. So I have this one here. Okay, here's a decent example. Belt of Divine Guidance and the Girdle of Zatar. Notice the Girdle of Zatar is a Zatar. Yeah, okay. Is 128 rating, which is really low level compared to 146, right? Item level 128 compared to 146. So you'd think it would be worse, but I put it here because it's got 2 fucking blue sockets, bro. Each blue socket is worth like 12 stamina. So this thing is saying it's plus 24 stamina, and I'm like, okay. So now suddenly it's like 46 stamina. This thing actually has more stamina than this thing over here. And it's got spirit, and it's got damage and healings. Fuck yeah, sign me up for this shit. 28, yeah. The good piece of gear. But even better, of course, is the Belt of Divine Guidance down here. Because 35 plus you can get 12 and then 6 stamina out of the yellow one. So 18 stamina. So this thing is 53 stam. 53 stamina compared to 43 stamina. We're actually gaining in stamina and spirit while having pretty good heat plus healing and stats. So you can see the type of gear that I'm looking to be swapping out, particularly from the PvP sets. I'm still going to want 4 out of 4 Lamellar though. 4 out of 4 Lamellar gives you the 10% 10-second time reduction to your stuns, so you have 35-second stuns as opposed to 1 minute stuns. So I'm stuck trying to get 4 out of 4 pieces. I think shoulders was another good example. Let me try to find some shoulders here. I did my research on this one, boys. Shoulders was a good replacement. I remember chest was a bad replacement. I looked at that, but there was one that had like a good replacement for shoulders, or was shoulders bad? Can't remember. Okay, yeah, we're stuck with shoulders here. Nothing good in the chest category. So it was like boots or something? I'm trying to find another good example of gear to swap out. I remember wrists were decent. Let's find the wrists. Wrists. Boots and wrists? I thought I looked at wrists. So Lamellar has 29 stamina. And yeah, you got stuff like this where plus 12 stamina is already putting us at 27 stamina. So that's very competitive with 29. Pick up spirit and blah, 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 blah. This one's technically better. No, that's actually a 28. All right, here it is. Like Swift Steel Bracers was actually competitive with Lamellar. Picking up haste rating at some point for your melee weapons, not half bad. We're not too concerned about losing the intellect. And theoretically, potentially the spirit or the plus healing. I was gearing before with my theory crafting, thinking that I was going to take nuclear bombs in excess of like 6-7K in TBC, and then when I found out that the nukes in the game are like half as effective as they are in actual classic World of Warcraft, suddenly I have a lot more room to breathe with the gearing, and then stuff like Swift Steel Bracers actually becomes viable. Because, 32 stamina is a bit more stamina, and haste rating actually scales pretty well. So, hell yeah, this is on my radar. There was something else. Let me see. So, we did belts. We did boots. We did shoulders and chest. Didn't find anything there. Gloves? Thought we did gloves. Yeah, I didn't think there was any good gloves. It's hard to compete with this with 44 stamina. And there wasn't a lot of sockets. But, yeah. So, but there's some spirit gear, so hard to say. This has got 30. This has got 40 stamina, and this is 44 stamina. This might be a switch. Oh, this has got 45, and it's got haste, and I do need hit rating. So yeah, this might be another one to swap out for pillagers, for vengeful gladiators. Okay, so Vengeful Gladiators is definitely okay, this is a good example. Vengeful Gladiators is a piece of gear you're not going to want on an Argent Defender Paladin, period. And the main reason you don't want this piece of shit gear is the fact that it's increasing the critical strike chance of your Flash of Light by 2%, and like 2.3% in total. This piece of gear is crap and will potentially get you killed. And has to do with you using Flash of Light in Argent Defender. You're going to be using different ranks of Flash of Light while in Argent Defender mode. And you're going to very specifically want to be picking the rank of Flash of Light to use that's going to get you as close to 30% health as possible, but it's not going to put you over 35%, because that would be bad. However, if the Flash of Light crits, then you're going to be cursing yourself, because it'll probably kick you over 35%, and then the next spell that comes in will actually be doing full damage, as opposed to getting reduced by like between 41% and 50% reduction. That's how Argent Defender actually works. Talk about it more in detail later in this video. So a piece of gear that's telling me that my Flashes of Light critical strike chance is increasing by 3.3%. I want to get this piece of gear off my fucking Paladin as quickly as possible. Go away. Fuck off. I'm stuck, however, with some critical strike chance on the 4-piece Lamellar set, but I'm very interested in keeping it to a minimum. You really don't want critical strike on these Paladin builds. Sounds weird, but you really don't. It'll get you killed. Okay, so let's talk about Argent Defender. I suppose maybe I should talk about like what combat actually looks like, and then we'll get into the specifics. I'm looking for the talent tree. Here we go. So what I'm envisioning with these two Paladins is you're stepping into an arena. You've got Holy Reckoning, you've got Argent Defender, you've got things like Stoicism. Stoicism is actually kind of a thing because it means if you're popping wings or you're bubbling and people try to dispel that shit off of you, there's a chance that it just fizzles. You have this improved bubble, which is actually pretty sexy, but you're really picking it up more for the stamina. 60% time reduction and a 100% increase in your attack speed, or normal attack speed while bubbling is pretty cool. What else? But mainly you're down here for Argent Defender. So these two Paladins step into an arena, and I'm envisioning that the combat flow is, for the first couple minutes, you're playing kind of defensively. Like you'll be trying to grab whatever you can and pump out as much DPS as possible, but you're probably going to be keeping your hit points pretty high. Meaning you're prioritizing healing over damage as much as possible. And the reason why you're doing this is not many of these classes had very good sustain. You can see that in the notes. The only classes, the DPS classes had very poor sustain. The only class that had any real good sustain DPS-wise was the Elemental Shaman casting Lightning Bolts, but apparently Elemental Shaman's not really a thing in arenas. Don't ask me why. The Lightning Bolts had pretty good sustain. The Warlocks, of course, have good sustain because they can life tap, but the Warlocks are relying heavily on their dot damage, and once two Paladins with all the cleanses and free globals in the worlds are not going to let any kind of dot stick on them whatsoever. And so they're basically stuck using their really shitty lightning bolt or shadow bolts. So it's they can sustain DPS theoretically indefinitely, but their DPS is so dog shit that you could just jump all over the. Both Paladins can just literally start laying into the Druid and not giving the Druid any time or space to breathe, pumping him full of DPS until eventually he goes and dies. Which I've kind of calculated to be about the 3-minute mark the Druid will go and die. Based upon the amount of DPS I'm predicting these Paladins to have, and the sustain out of the Druid. So if we look over here with the Druid, the healers have a decent mix of sustain. So, for example, the Resto Shaman probably has the best sustain against the attentions of these two Pitbull Pallies, or these two Argent Defender Pallies. Well, Pitbull Pallies from now on, because that's pretty much how you're going to play it. And the reason for that is because they get this water shield that they get to put up where they get mana back. Not every time they're hit, but if both Paladins are leaning into them, the Resto Shaman will get a massive amount of sustain. Their sustain was relatively poor, though, if they weren't the focused target of the attention. So if you're fighting an enemy Resto Shaman, you might be better off not focusing the Shaman, but focusing whatever DPS class he is with. If you're going into an endurance fight, that might not be best though, because they're gonna do some decent damage with their lightning bolt. So I don't know. I think the best, Resto Shamans actually kind of scare me. I'm not gonna lie. However, the Druids don't, which is going to by far the more common thing that you're going to be running into. And the Druids, they have a terrifyingly efficient mana to heal ratio. They've got pretty damn good MP5 while casting. What's fascinating about this is you can kind of do a mathematical calculation, which is why these stats are actually here. You can do a mathematical calculation based around the efficiency of their heals, combined with their MP5 to figure out, what exactly is their sustainable HPS, heals per second, and their sustainable HPS will directly counter the DPS of the Paladins, because the vast majority of the damage coming out of the Paladin is not mitigatable. It's going to be holy damage pumped into it. So it's going to be Judgment of Justice. It's going to be a Seal of Justice. It's going to be a Seal of Vengeance if you're Alliance, because you can use Seal of Vengeance and Seal of Justice kind of twisted together to keep the dot tick up on them. And it's going to be Consecrate. It's going to be like 80 to 90% of the damage coming out of these two Paladins is going to be holy damage. I'm predicting that they're going to be doing maybe 300 hit point loss per second to whatever target they decide to focus. That number can go up or down depending upon what is actually happening in the situation. For example, and it gets actually quite fascinating. For example, if you're popping wings, the damage will go up. If you're judging on cooldown, the damage will go up. If you're seal twisting all over the place, then the damage will go up. If you're using consecration heavily, the damage will go up. But one of the interesting things is, what I'm thinking in my mind is that you have these two 35-second stuns. There are these two 6-second stuns on a 35-second cooldown, which means that between the two of you, you have a 6-second stun available almost every 12 seconds. I think that maths out about right. It's about 12, 13 seconds that you can stun somebody for 6 seconds. And your stuns are meant to be used primarily to heal yourselves. Like, you're perfectly fine healing yourself even without the stuns. Like, it's not going to be a problem. But the tempo and the DPS and the proper use of your stun is going to be to heal yourself. So I'll give you an example. So the idea is, both of you, say both of you jump on top of the druid, and the druid's not really going to be going anywhere because of Judgment of Justice slow, and then both of you have taken Pursuit of Justice, so you're going to be able to stick to this this druid. One or more of you is going to be able to stick to this druid pretty much like glue, not letting them break combat or do anything that they want to do, like drink. You're going to be sticking them with your 300, maybe closer to 400 unmitigatable DPS. And let's say you're beating on them, and all of a sudden you decide that you as a unit need to heal. Like one of you is getting a little low on hit points, so you need to heal. Well, the play is you stun the druid for 6 seconds, right? Well, technically, you throw down your consecrations in coordination, you stun the druid for 6 seconds, so the consecrations are ticking away on the druid. You then both stop and you just start healing each other, right? Like, both of you throw out heals, because the remaining player isn't going to be able to stop the healing of both of you. So even if it's like a rogue, for example, and just start kicking one of you like crazy, he's not going to be able to stop the healing of the other paladin. Highly suggest, you may be using Holy Lights, you may be using Flash of Lights. It really doesn't matter under those conditions. But yeah, so the stun comes out, the heals start flowing, but this is also used in conjunction with Consecration. Consecration has like a 90% spell power ratio. It's literally 10% ratio per tick. So I guess that means it's like an 80% spell power ratio. People say 90% because they usually use it in conjunction with Sanctity Aura, I guess. But yeah, so it's got like a 10% spell power ratio per tick. It's going to tick like 8 times. The point is, even though you've pulled away on your DPS from this druid to heal yourselves, right? What's actually happening is your DPS hasn't fallen off at all, because you've put down 2 consecrations. The consecrations are probably doing something like, we'll say like 250 damage a tick, maybe even more. That's technically me kind of lowballing it. So the druid's still stuck suffering 500 DPS just from the 2 consecrations that are down. If you're doing it correctly, you would have timed the consecrations and the healing specifically around improved judgment. So you would have both judged Seal of Righteousness into the druid, then come down the consecrations, then comes out a single stun, and then you guys start healing yourselves. And the idea behind that is your seal of your judgment DPS, which is about 100 DPS, because your judgment hits for about 1,000 damage, is still it's still on cooldown, right? It's still rolling. So technically, you're doing like 250 DPS for each consecration, and then your Seal of Righteousness, 100 DPS, is still in full effect. Which means even though you jackasses are stopping to heal yourselves, because now's the time to heal yourselves, you're still maintaining like this 350 to 400 DPS per paladin on your target, which means you are a couple of relentless turds. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's like If my target's not stunned, we're pumping between 350 and 400 DPS into it. When my target is stunned, we're healing ourselves, but we're maintaining about 350 DPS into our target each paladin. And if you go back over here to our screen, you can see that this mana efficiency ratio and this amount of MP5 while casting is going to be horrifyingly insufficient to deal with something like a 700 hit point loss a second that the druid can't really stop. Like, they might be able to try to peel it off a little bit, like, you know, try to slow down one paladin or something like that. But even then, he's still going to be suffering like 500 HP loss a second. And I suppose I should pull up a calculator. There's no way they can sustain that over time. All right. So if I'm doing 190, I'm getting 190 mana back every 5 seconds. And then I can convert that mana into 1,300 healing, which is the times 7 ratio. And then I divide that by 5 to get an HPS. The druid is negating about 266 of our DPS a second, which means he's actually losing... He's losing almost the equivalent of the HPS. That means every... Every 5 seconds, he's at a mana deficiency of... What did we determine? It was like 180, right? Or like 190? Yeah. So it's like every 5 seconds of combat that goes by, the druid is at a deficit of about 90 hit points. This is lowballing, right? Like, I'm saying that you can keep 700 DPS on the druid, theoretically, but if they're, like, peeling off of you or they're doing something else, something's really slowing down your DPS, then we're going to say 500, whatever, 500. He's still going to die at 500. And here's where things get interesting. You actually calculate where, at what point the druid is, how long the druid's likely to last and when they're going to die. So the druid's going to have about 9,000 mana. They get an innervate, which gives them about 80% of their mana back. And so they're going to have about this much mana to play with. And they're operating at a deficit of about 190 mana every 5 seconds. So like 360 mana every 10 seconds. Let's just do it by second, actually. So if it was 180 mana divided by 5, that was like 1,600, right? 180 mana divided by 5. No, it was 190. 190 divided by 5, give or take. So losing 38 mana a second. So now I got to go over here to like 1,600 or whatever the hell we determined their total mana bar was. Actually, let's go back. So it was like 9,000, yep, times 1.8. Mana bar divided by, what was that, like 36? Oh, God, I'm so bad at this. 190 divided by 5. Correct? Yes, 38. Okay. So it was about 1,600. There we go. Divided by 38 equals 400 divided by 60. So, Druid's dead in 7 minutes? That seems... Yeah, but we were lowballing it at like 5 minutes, right? Or 500 DPS? Yeah. Druid's dead in 7 minutes. I think he gets off multiple innervates in that amount of time. I don't know. That seems like a long time to try to kill a druid. I don't know why. Did I do the math wrong? Well, we're pumping... Oh, it's the healing efficiency. Yeah. So, but that's the deficit. Yeah, okay. So at most he's going to take 7 minutes to die. I was calculating the druid to be dead at about 3 minutes. But I think my calculations, a lot of it has to do with whatever partner the druid is going to be with is either going to be completely ineffective as a DPS, aka it's going to be a warrior or a rogue, or it's going to be something like a warlock, which will technically never run out of mana, but is also equally ineffective at their DPS. Or it's going to be paired with some other more effective kind of DPS against the paladins, like a mage or a shadow priest. But a mage or a shadow priest is going to eventually run out of mana very rapidly. And when they run out of mana, the paladin DPS starts to escalate rapidly. So around about the 2-minute mark, the DPS classes they're either going to start off completely ineffectively as far as their ability to even threaten the paladins defensively, which means the paladins start being able to use their their stuns offensively, start being able to use their wings offensively. They get sizable DPS increases if they're not being threatened to use their stuns to heal, is basically what I'm saying. They can be far more effective with their DPS. So their DPS will spike as the threat level they're suffering from their opponent goes down. Rogues aren't going to be threatening at all. Warriors aren't going to be threatening at all. Warlocks aren't going to be threatening at all. Mage will be threatening until they run out of mana, which is going to happen in about 2 minutes. An elemental shaman is going to be threatening until it runs out of mana at about probably maybe more like 3 minutes for an elemental shaman. Shadow Priest will run out of mana in about 2 minutes. So past the 2 minute mark, the Paladin DPS is going to spike sharply. And I guess, so yeah, at that point, it's definitely, you're going to be sticking this Druid with about 700 DPS. And you can see that Druid's going to die around about 3 minutes is basically my prediction. Because the ebb and the flow of the combat. Okay, so we've talked about what the combats actually look like. So let's discuss just how bullshit Argent Defender is, and I'm gonna have to go make I'm gonna have to pause the video and go make another slide for this. Okay, we're back. Hopefully I got this set up right. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the stats I have written down so far. I'm talking about Argent Defender. Okay, so the stats I'm kind of going for on my Paladin are going to be around 13k hit points. I'm going to try to go for between 900 to 100k, 1,000 spell damage, and then enough healing to hit certain thresholds with Flash of Light. So that Flash of Light heals between like 9 and 10%, and Holy Light heals around about 30%. I'm also looking for certain spirit thresholds, somewhere between 200 to 300. Don't really know how much spirit we're going to need at this point. I'm predicting you're going to have about 300 to 400 DPS. There should be a W here. With DPS spikes under certain conditions, such as if you're being pressured less as a unit, then you can really start using your stuns offensively and really ramp up wings and all that stuff and start really ramping up your damage. Getting Reckoning charges because they just can't help but give somebody Reckoning charges in this team. And then we need to talk about why Argent Defender is broken and about just how powerful Blessing of Sanctuary actually is. So I'm also thinking that when your team is being defensive, like in the early stages of a battle, when nobody has any mana issues, right? The Druid doesn't have any mana issues, like the whatever healer doesn't have any mana issues, their DPS doesn't have any mana issues. If nobody has any mana issues and they have all their cooldowns and blah, 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 then you're better off using Blessing of Sanctuary. When attrition starts wearing on the enemy team and their DPS starts falling off because of it, they have less tools to play with. They're just less threatening at like the 2 minute mark or the 3 minute mark or so forth and so on. You can switch away from Blessing of Sanctuary and go into Blessing of Might on both Paladins. Again, there's that ramping up of that damage as your opponent's ability to threaten you goes away. Blessing of Sanctuary is actually nothing to scoff at because it's reducing damage by 80. And that's not going to be a big deal when you're taking lots of big hits. But if you're taking lots of small hits, like against rogues and stuff like that, then Blessing of Sanctuary reducing damage by 80 on top of the armor is absolutely fucking retarded. And then Blessing of Sanctuary becomes almost doubly effective when Argent Defender mode activates. That's why these numbers are almost equal. Theoretically, and why the math isn't actually off. But let me actually show you what I mean by the percentages and whatnot. So I'm on the private server here, and as you can see, I've only managed to get 12k even with Blessing of Kings as far as hit points go. But this gear isn't like properly itemized. What I wasn't looking primarily for stamina. What I was looking for was mainly to like what plus damage do I need and what plus healing do I need to hit my desired thresholds. Let's refresh this real fast. And as we can see here, I'm going to show you what a Flash of Light heals for. It should be about 1200. Yeah, okay. 1200. And I can calculate like what percentage of my hit points that is. I think it's literally 10%, right? So my Flash of Light is successfully healing me for 1200. I have a 20% spell crit chance, which is absolutely unacceptable. We want to get this number down as low as possible. You can tell this server doesn't let me gear the way I would want to gear a paladin, so I'm not happy about that. So I suppose it means I should have more plus healing and less damage or something, but definitely I'm going to try for more hit points. Holy Light, as we can see here, let's do a Holy Light, should be 3600. It's like 3 times the healing of the Flash of Light. Okay, that was not useful. Fuck off, crit. Yeah. So the one is healing for 1200, the other is healing for about 3600, right? So one is 10% of my life, was 30% of my life, blah, 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 blah. I just want to show you what the ratios are. You get a metric shit ton from Spirit. I tested Spirit out on the other classes, and it was kind of like, I don't know if this is actually accurate to TBC or not. Let's pull out these rings. I only had 3 items available that I could put on that actually had Spirit on them. And I looked at the Spirit on the other classes, and their Spirit number was really high, but how much they were getting was really low. And I was like, what is going on? And eventually I figured out that the classes that are using Spirit are specifically Druid and their Dis Priest. And Druid and Dis Priest both have a talent in their skill tree that basically says that they get 30% of their Spirit regeneration while they're casting, which is something Paladins don't get. And I don't know if it's just a private server thing, or I do know in Classic World of Warcraft, certain classes benefit differently from Spirit than others. They get more benefit or less benefit. Like Warriors get way more benefit to their health regeneration than Paladins do from Spirit, because it like takes the benefit of Spirit for a Paladin and splits it like 50-50 between health regeneration and mana regeneration or something. It's kind of weird. But I just want to show you what this ratio looks like real quick here. So you can see that we're doing 63 MP5 from, or let's do the non-in combat. 176 mana regenerated every 5 seconds while not casting. All right, let's put on some Spirit gear here and see what happens. So I only went up like 66 Spirit, 77 Spirit. All right, fine. And then I look at the stats, and I went up by like a metric shit ton of, what was it before? Strip that off. It was 1832 248. 183 to 248. 183, 248, 83, 60, almost 70 mana gained. Yeah, I remember it was like almost a 1.2 ratio. So even though or maybe it's almost a 1-to-1. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but that's actually a lot. So if you saw all the gear I was showing you before that had like a lot of Spirit on it, and the fact that we can maintain large quantities of our DPS while getting Spirit ticks, holy crap. Not to mention, if the enemy can't get you off of them and you're beating the shit out of them, you're going to be regenerating a ton of mana just off of Seal of Wisdom, so you might not need all this Spirit, but might as well pack on some Spirit there, because the more mana equals more DPS. It's one of those weird synergies that actually exists with Paladin. But let me actually get off here, go back to our Argent Defender, and we'll talk about why Argent Defender is so absolutely insane. I actually got to do something really fast, because we need to figure out I didn't write in the physical, even though it's actually kind of bonkers. So if I remember correctly, it's like 60, yeah, I guess I can talk about that. So a lot of people might be asking, and I got some comments in a previous video of mine where they're like, won't you be losing a lot of armor if you're using all that, like, cloth and mail gear with all the Spirit on it? And to which I would point out this. So I'm sitting at like a 62, seriously? That means my internet died, didn't it? Yeah, thank you. I see that. So now you died, but you're back again. Like, immediately. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because I don't believe you. Anyways, moral of the story is, I'm sitting at, my shield's providing over 6,000 armor out of my, like, 1,700 armor total. So as long as you're wearing a shield, you can 100% get away with sacrificing some of the plate armor gear, because you'll still be sitting at, like, 58%. Armor and crap like that, and you have Argent Defender and all this other stuff. Yeah, you just died for a second. You're just gonna try to screw up my video. Luckily, I don't care about values. Okay, so shield 6,000, over 6,000 hit points. My armor is 1,700. So the vast majority of my armor is actually coming from my shield. Let's strip this off real fast. So this is like 51%, and then plus goes up, 11% from the shield. Yeah, okay. Let's do it a different way. I'll start stripping off bits of plate gear. How about we rip off 4 pieces of plate gear, and we'll see where we're at. Let's rip off some big pieces of plate gear here. Oh, look, we're at 52%. So I was able to rip off 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of plate gear, and I'm still at a pretty damn good piece. I'll put one back on. This is 2,000 armor. Yeah, so you're going to be at like 56, 57%. Even with the leather gear, you're going to be fine. As long as you got a shield on, you're just fine. Oh god, yes, okay. So that's not actually a problem. All right, go away. Go away. Yeah. It's also not a problem because you have talent points in the talent tree that reduce your damage by a significant amount. It's only like 6% for melee. It's like a 10% damage reduction from your talent points. And then this is minus 20% because you got some resilience on your gear. But for the most part, you're going to have let me think. La 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 la. And Blessing of Sanctuary is also just monstrous. So you're probably going to be sitting at about a 64% physical damage reduction, and that number goes up to like 6% against critical strikes. 64%. Phys. I'm going to put a Y in there. Physical. Alright. Wow, this is some scuff shit right here. See if I can go down. Click some enters. That's decent. But by the time you get down to like Argent Defender activating, it's going to be like 75 to 77%, depending upon if we're talking criticals or non-criticals, as far as your damage reduction. Because Argent Defender kicks in, and it's just... It starts getting a little intense very quickly. Okay. Boop. Decent. Okay. Yeah, so the amount of effective hit points you have against a physical attacker just in total is absolutely insane. And keep in mind, we actually do have Holy Shield on this build, so there's no fucking way in hell a melee class is going to do a jack shit to you. I tested the melee classes, like, maybe I should go show that real fast. I tested, like, the melee class DPS to be like, I was wondering, well, do they do, like, twice as much damage as they do in classic World of Warcraft? Blah, 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 blah. And I was actually surprised to find that they actually don't do double damage. But that might just be armor. Hard to say. I didn't test Rogue. I don't know Rogue enough to actually play test Rogue. So, not that rogues... My theory on rogues is like, even if rogues do massive damage, Blessing a Sanctuary and Holy Shield and Argent Defender and the fact that you're in plate armor with a shield is just going to completely screw them over. 1 second. Hey, can you screw off? Thank you. My wife is out here walking around in sandals, distracting the shit out of me. Alright, let's see here. Yeah. 900. Remember their damage is between like 800 and 900. I imagine there's some armor here. So the damage output is about half as much as you would see on... Put some Mortal Strikes in. It's about half as much as you would see on like private servers. But that's... They weren't doing shit to us with a shield back on Classic WoW. So I don't imagine they're going to do much to us in Argent Defender. I'm very fearful for a warrior's rage generation capabilities while a paladin is in Argent Defender mode. So because if you're taking like 75% reduced damage, they're going to be so stupidly rage starved that they probably can't even 70, 75. That's brilliant. They probably can't even keep Mortal Strike on you because they're just not generating anywhere near enough rage to get anything done. The rogues have an equally painful time because they're trying to go through Holy Shield and they're going to have to run almost the entirety of the gambit of Argent Defender. By the way, this 4,000 number is about a 30% activation on Argent D. Argent D will almost never activate. It varies in its activation. Sometimes it activates at, like, 27% life. Sometimes it activates at like, 33% life or something like that. So I just split the difference. I'm like, whatever. Let's just assume Argent Defender mode fully active at 30%. But a rogue is going to have to run the gambit of almost the entirety of Argent Defender, which is just going to be so cancerous for them. Oh my god. So the point is, I don't think this comp fears the physical damage specs at all. Like, there's just way too much armor mitigation. There's way too much damage mitigation. Blessing of Sanctuary at reducing 80 damage. Like you saw with the Warrior, it... Oh my god. Okay, so poor Warrior... That poor Warrior, rather than hitting you for like 1,000... I think the target dummy has some armor, but I could be wrong. Rather than the Warrior hitting you for like 1,000 damage, he's going to be hitting you for closer to like 600. We'll assume it has some armor. It'll be hitting you for like 600, maybe less, maybe like 500. Yeah, 500. You are above a 64% damage reduction. Let's say he's hitting you for 500, right? Well, Blessing of Sanctuary is going to rip off almost 18% of that damage, like minus 80 from 500. That sucks. Then you get down to like minus 75%, and suddenly the Warrior's probably only hitting for like 200. And then Blessing of Sanctuary is like, oh, thanks, I'll rip off 80 damage from the 200. And oh, by the way, did you know we had Holy Shield? Get fucked. So, yeah, not really going to be a thing. But the big thing to talk about, of course, is spellcasters, because obviously melee classes aren't going to do jack, fuck, and shit to these two paladins. In fact, against melee classes, the paladins can probably engage full aggro from the beginning, not being super interested in using their stuns for healing, but instead going using their stuns for offensive purposes. What else? The melee classes also have a major issue in that there's a major DPS increase that the paladins get from them. They're giving the paladins rec charges all over the place. So the warrior is likely doing cleave, good chance the warrior is doing cleave, which means he's going to give reckoning charges all over the place. The rogues can't help but give one or more of the paladins reckoning charges all over the place. If you're jumping on the druid with the melee classes, then the melee DPS is forced to follow you, so all four of you are going to be in this tight little area, like fighting, and then consecrations become super effective, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of DPS increases against the melee classes. Where the interesting stuff is with Argent Defender is a thing called healing tempo. All right, how to describe, especially against spellcasters. Okay, how to describe healing tempo. Well, let's talk about it in terms of classic World of Warcraft. So in classic World of Warcraft, let's say you get hit with a spell and you fall down to like 20% life, okay? You have a choice. Your choices are, you can either try to Flash of Light yourself, go for the fast heal, which the fast heal should get in before the next big damaging spell. It should get in before the next lightning bolt. It should get in before the next frost bolt. It should get in before the next shadow bolt, right? The FOL is going to get in there and heal you before the next damage source comes in. However, in classic World of Warcraft, because it's such a burst-heavy meta, the Flash of Light is almost never a good idea, because it's just not enough to... It's not enough to get you out of the situation permanently, if that makes any sense. There are some times where you can FOL yourself immediately, like if you know the next spell coming in is going to kill you, or there are times when first you do a Flash of Light and then you immediately go for a Holy Light. But the idea, of course, is you want to get out of Flash of Lights in classic World of Warcraft as quickly as possible and get into Holy Lights. Ideally, what you do, however, when you become a Paladin PvP monster in classic World of Warcraft, again, we're talking about healing tempo. Healing tempo is like how fast and how much can I heal myself in a space and time versus how quickly and hardly is the enemy spell going to come in and bitch slap me, right? Do I have time for a Holy Light, or do I need to FOL myself? Is my FOL even sufficient? Did I gear properly? Blah, 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 blah. So in classic World of Warcraft, what we tend to do is we end up hitting very specific hit point numbers. We try to get as much hit points as possible. So if the situation is I take a massive hit, but I have enough time to go for the Holy Light in Classic World of Warcraft. So rather than going for the FOL, I go for the Holy Light. And which means I'm going to suffer that lightning bolt, I'm going to suffer that next frost shock, I'm going to suffer that next shadow bolt. And I'm either rolling the dice that next incoming spell won't crit, and therefore I won't die, or I'm gearing properly and I'm keeping my health levels at a proper levels, so that I know for a fact that even if that lightning bolt comes in and it crits me, that this Holy Light is getting off. Like, I'm going to survive this Frostbolt crit, this lightning bolt crit, this shadow bolt crit, with like 50 hit points remaining, and then boom, my Holy Light comes in and heals me for like 40 to 60% of my life, and I'm immediately back in the fight. So it's a really good tempo play in Classic WoW, because even though FOL is fast and it can get in there, but before the spell hits, it's like a jab of healing as opposed to like a solid body blow or a left hook or an uppercut in healing. Weird analogy, but it's true. What the hell was I saying? I got caught up on the analogies. Right, it's a good tempo play in World of Warcraft because Holy Light heals for a metric shit ton, and Flash of Light heals kind of limp dickly in Classic World of Warcraft compared to all the very burst heavy stuff that is flying around. Which means that, right, and the Holy Lights are much more efficient time wise. Like even though they suck a dick in the fact that they're not going to outspeed most of the spells, and they're very prone to being interrupted and CC'd, blah, 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 all their deficits. The amount of healing you get for the amount of time you invested in the heal is way more than FOL. For example, if you use your free critical and you go for your Holy Light, you can heal for 66% of your HP total. Boom, in one go. Your Flash of Lights are healing for maybe 12% of your life, 6% of your life, or not 12, 11%, 10% of your life in Classic World of Warcraft. Like, they're not healing for much. They're healing for maybe 700. I guess 700 is we'll say 15%. In order that means I would need 4 Flash of Lights to equal 1 Holy Light crit heal, if that makes any sense. And the amount of time, that's 6 seconds of healing versus 2.5 seconds of time that I spent healing. Which is why 9 times out of 10, you're better off going for the Holy Light, gearing properly, keeping your health levels at sufficient amounts, and just going for the Holy Light, because even if you get CC'd, you're like, 2-second charge on the Holy Light, Peh, I got grenaded. Okay, whatever, we're out of the grenade. Let's charge up the next Holy Light. Boom, Holy Light goes off. It's still worth it. Whatever. But anyways, that's the healing tempo of Classic World of Warcraft. Based upon everything I'm looking at right now, as far as the damage sources, the cast times, what the crits look like, what the crits don't look like, you're gonna be, long story short, you're gonna be able to you're gonna be able to Holy Light above Argent Defender, and you're going to be Flashing of Lighting in Argent Defender. You're going to be Flash of Lighting in Argent Defender. Let me just point it out. You're going to be Flash of Lighting in Argent Defender. Now, Flash of Light... Now, let's actually go look at the... let's go look at what a Flash of Light outspeeds. I don't think I can do this very well, but let me try real fast. 0.6? The math on Curse of Tongues is really weird, so I don't know how long a Flash of Light will actually take to cast. I like to think a Flash of Light will take 2.2 seconds to cast when it's under the effects of Curse of Tongues. I have it right here, plus 60% casting speed time. Oh, I can do the math I remember how to do the math. Okay. Derpa. Okay, so 1.5 seconds cast, and I'm going to divide this by 10. That'll give me 10%. Okay, so this is 10%. And I'm going to times this by 6, so that's 60%. Of the spell's cast time, and then I'm going to add 1.5 to that, and so it's going to take me 2.4 seconds to get out a Flash of Light. This might be a little faster if you have some haste gear, so which I possibly would suggest having, but we'll go with 2.4 seconds to begin with here. The point I'm making is, even with Curse of Tongues on you, your 2.4-second flash of light cast time is going to greatly outspeed their 2. Thank you. No, I want you to fuck off, and I want you to give me. Thank you. Is going to greatly outspeed their almost 2.9-second cast time on their Shadow Bolts. Right? Like, this is a 3-second Shadow Bolt cast timer with some haste behind it. This is horrifyingly pathetic. What's worse is when it crits you, it's going to do absolutely nothing. So, and keep in mind that they had almost a non-existent crit chance on the SL Warlocks on the server when they were putting me in like the gear that they suggested for Arena. Well, they're supposed to be a dot machine. They dot you up, and that's how they kill things. They're not a Shadow Bolt engine whatsoever. In Argent Defender, what's going to happen is this 1500 damage is going to get cut down by it's a little around like 41%. I just like saying 40% to be more realistic, but it's like 41, 42%. We'll do 0.59, so we're going to be reducing it by 41%. Then it's going to also suffer our seal of our Blessing of Sanctuary. I'm thinking that these two Paladins are having Blessing of Kings and Blessing of Sanctuary on them if they're worried about enemy DPS. Otherwise, they're going to be using Blessing of Kings and Blessing of Might. With two Paladins, you can't really purge it off of them, and the mana efficiencies aren't really a problem. I have the purges written down here somewhere. It's like 236 for a Shaman. And then for a Shadow Priest, it's a bit more, like 270 mana. Where is it? Dispel, damage, mana burn, no. I didn't... Mana burn? Where's their purge, Haas? Did I not write their purge down? Oh, it's about like 270 something for a purge for a Shadow Priest. Maybe I had Disc Priest over here, but whatever. Damage, MP5, sustain, mana burn, low. I guess I didn't write their purge down. Anyways, like 270 for their purge. Oh, I might have it right here. Okay, it's Dispel, not Purge. Okay, yeah, 274 mana to get rid of the two buffs. The King's buff was like 170 mana or something, so this is horrifyingly unmana efficient for either of these to try to keep Kings off of you. And so also another reason why I'm saying I think I can get the Paladins up to like 1,300 hit points. But back to our fighting a Warlock. If let's see here. I want the calculator. Okay, yeah. Right, so these frickin' Shadow Bolts, which are supposed to be doing 1,500 damage, and keep in mind they're not really going to crit, are going to end up doing 800 damage inside of Argent Defender. Now, if I multiply this by 5, what it basically means is that when we're in Argent Defender mode, it's going to take this Warlock 4 frickin' Shadow Bolts to overcome Argent Defender. Okay? That's horrifying. Like, ugh. Like, maybe he can get some help from the healer to do some DPS, but God, the healer's not going to do very much more DPS. That's for damn sure. The cast time was like almost 2.9 seconds. Let's go back to the calculator. 2.9 times, what did we determine? It was like 5 Shadow Bolts. Yeah, it's going to take this... It's going to take the Warlock something like almost 15 seconds, especially if you factor in like travel time of the Shadow Bolts. 15 fucking seconds if a Paladin is doing absolutely nothing, standing there with a thumb up his butt, to actually get dead by a Warlock inside of Argent Defender. That is an insane amount of time. It's also an insane amount of time when you factor in that... how are they locking down the other Paladin exactly? Are they doing the 6-second Cyclone plus 3-second Cyclone plus 1-second Cyclone? Like they're cycloning him for 10 seconds. Keep in mind, Cyclone is in a vulnerability. It's not a stun. Okay, so they cyclone the other Paladin, and somehow I don't know how they're CCing this other Paladin for 15 fucking seconds when he just has to like look at his other Paladin and like cleanse Cyclone off of him. Like I don't understand, but we'll just assume that the Warlock has like a 10-second stun that or silence that he can just throw out at will. The Paladin would survive that. Like, Argent Defender is so bullshit that both Paladins in this composition would easily survive this. Because it's like, yeah, I'm gonna Cyclone this one for 10 seconds, and we're just gonna silence this other one for 10 seconds, because whatever. We just have Blizzard gave us a special ability that we don't actually have. And no, the Paladin's perfectly fine. He's not dead, and they're going to easily get out a flash of light before the next Shadow Bolt comes in. So it's like, whatever. Anyways, the point is, the tempo of flash of light, even under tongues, is super effective. Oh, and I guess I need to do the math here exactly. Right, so the Shadow Bolts are coming in for 800 damage every 2.9 seconds. But the FOLs are healing you for about 1,200, right? Every 2.4 seconds, even with tongues on you. That means that once you come out of the CC chain that they technically don't have, both Paladins just start flashing of lighting, or even one Paladin starts flashing of lighting, and they can't stop it, right? It's not, you can't stop this shit. No, I'm just telling you. Anyways. What else do I want to talk about? Yeah, so even under tongues, FOL, as long as you're pairing it with Argent Defender, is amazing. Unkillable, blah. Let's look at the other spellcasters and see what they can potentially do. Shaman had the best potential just because they could theoretically do some serious variance in their damage. Like, for example, the lightning bolts are coming in at, let's see here. Do I have the cast time? Yeah. The lightning bolts are coming in at like 1.9 seconds each, but there's no tongues on you. Like maybe, I don't know, Elemental Shaman and then Warlock, because they'll have tongues. The tongues will cause the lightning bolts to outspeed the flashes of light. Otherwise, the flash of lights will outspeed the lightning bolts, so that's a bit of a problem. Shamans don't really bring any CC to the table. Like, they don't have any stuns. They don't have any way to, like, lock down the Paladins. So it's like the Paladins are going to be free casting, and there's not really much they can do about it. I guess they can interrupt them with Earth Shock, but that's not super effective because you got one Earth Shock and you've got two Paladins. You got one Feared, you got two Paladins, and as long as one of them is cleansing, then, alright, the Fear's not available. Like, with Druid Warlock, at least they can theoretically both CC you, right? Like, the Warlock is fearing one of them, and then the Druid is cycloning the other one, and then they can, like, switch to like, cycloning one and fearing the other, but I think all the CCs share, like, a DR. So I guess that doesn't work. At least you could theoretically CC both Paladins with the Warlock Druid combo. With the Shaman combo, you can't really do that. At best, you're locking out the Paladin for, like, 2 seconds, and the other one gets feared, and then but it just means that as soon as the other Paladin comes out of spell lock, it just cleanses the fear off, and it's like, whoop-de-fucking-do. So I'm not really sure what you pair this damage with, that the burst will be scary, but the burst is here, so let's just look at the burst. So they can potentially do like 3,000 damage, and then if they get super lucky, they'll be like an extra 1,600 or like 800 damage added into that. Don't know how spell batching is going to work. Don't know if this extra bit of damage will be subject to Argent Defender or not. Don't really know. They can also batch in the Earth Shock, possibly. So it's theoretically possible if in under spell batching conditions, if they actually do have spell batching, but I don't know how Argent Defender is going to work with spell batching, that a Shaman could blast you with like a Lightning Bolt crit for 3,000. Get the extra attack that crits for like 1,600. Get like an Earth Shock crit for like 2,400. Right now, we're on Mars with the RNG, right? The RNG is like out of this world at this point. But so let's ignore this and just say the Earth Shock crits and the Lightning Bolt crits. Yeah, the 20% spell critical strike. Maybe it's more for lightning spells. Maybe they pick up like talent points specifically, so probably like 30%. We'll just say both these hit at the same time. We'll say maybe they're not subject to Argent Defender, blah, 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 blah. So what could theoretically happen is, say you're at 40% life as a Paladin, and you suddenly get nailed for like 5,500 damage, right? Just blam, a Shaman cracks you in the face. So we had 13,000 hit points. We're going to times this by 0.4 to figure out what it is. Yeah, you could theoretically just be dead because your Argent Defender did not activate in time, and they just straight up kill you. Like, because the way Argent Defender works is first you have to fall below it, and blah, 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 blah. What typically happens more often, though, is that's really risky. Like, they're casting the lightning bolt, they're waiting for the travel time of the lightning bolt to hit you, or you're physically on top of them, so it's instantaneous. Then they're blasting you, they're hoping it batches, they're hoping it crits, and for some reason, as a paladin, you were dumb enough to not have enough hit points to take this on the chin. So then the question becomes, how many hit points, what percentage of hit points do we need to actually take it on the chin, and then Argent Defender will come through and save the day. All right, let's pump it up to 50%. Let's say I'm not doing 40% because I know the burst of an elemental shaman can theoretically pop me at 40%. So 1,300 divided by times 0.5 equals 6,500 minus 5,500 was what we determined the critical strike was. So I still have 1,000 hit points to work with Argent Defender. Okay. Right, so that seems a bit more comfortable. Looking at the speeds, one of two possibilities. Either they're with a Warlock, and I'm not going to outspeed the next Lightning Bolt. So the next... That's not true, because this is a Wombo combo. This is the downside to Wombo combos. So there's going to be a 1.5 second global cooldown that the Shaman is stuck on, and only then can the Shaman charge up like his fastest available spell, which would be Chain Lightning at 1.4 seconds. So there's going to be almost 3 seconds of time before the Shaman is going to be able to put damage back into that Paladin, which means that even with Curse of Tongues on you at 2.4 seconds, you can get off that flash of light. So we'll assume worst case scenario, and for some fucking reason, we're fighting an elemental shaman with Curse of Tongues on us. Like, this is just our life, okay? Can't imagine what is happening, but this is our life right now. Who knows? Maybe it's a good arena comp. Seems kind of nice. Go back over to the calculator here. I'm going to get off my Flash of Light before that Lightning Bolt comes in, giving me 2,300 hit points. If that Lightning Bolt crits, so now we're on Mars with the RNG, right? The Earth Shock crit, the Lightning Bolt crit. Now the next thing that comes in crits. The Lightning Bolt is critting me. For some reason, my partner, Paladin, is unable to heal me as well. Like, he got feared or something. Fuck if I know. I'm still only taking 50% damage from this 3,000 crit. So technically, I'm only taking, well, actually, I'm taking about 1,400 when you factor in Blessing of Sanctuary, which means I still have 800 left. So you can see I'm slowly dying, right? I'm slowly dying. Now, keep in mind, what's fascinating about this number is this is almost a Shadow Bolt. Right, so if they're paired with a Warlock, and I heal for 1,200 with 1,000 hit points, and then I take a Lightning Bolt crit, and then a normal Shadow Bolt comes in and hits me, and for some reason my partner can't do anything. I don't know why I'm not cleansing him. Maybe the next play is to cleanse him. I might be alive, I might be dead. If I was at 51% before this RNG shit show theoretical comp of death, then I would live, right? Because I think the Shadow Bolts are doing like 810 damage or something like that. So I was dead there, but I wouldn't be dead. You get the point. Are you seeing how hard this thing is to kill? It's absolutely ridiculous. It is. So I guess the next Lightning Bolt out crits. So let's see what would happen if there was no Shadow Bolt incoming. Okay, well, I need to charge up another Holy Light, another Flash of Light immediately. Let me see. So what happened during the timeline here? Keep in mind, so far, just in case you're following or not following, I'm explaining to you nightmare scenarios that Argent Defender Paladins are laughing at because they don't give a fuck. Okay? They absolutely give no shits. Like the first nightmare scenario I gave you was somehow there's a druid and a warlock, which is a comp you're definitely going to run into, and I just magically gave them the ability to silence one of the paladins for 10 seconds, right? Something they just straight up can't do. I just, whatever. Otherwise, it's not even a contest because one of the paladins is going to be able to... Both paladins are going to be healing simultaneously, or one of the paladins... No, that's not true. One of the paladins is going to be able to heal. So I was like, what happens if for 10 seconds the paladins can't do shit? do we die with Argent Defender? And the answer is hell fucking no. There still needs to be another like 4 or 5 seconds of DPS here, which is plenty of time to get out our 2.4 second Curse of Tongued Flash of Light. There we go. So the second nightmare scenario I'm proposing, and once again we're observing that we give no shits, is a warlock paired with an elemental shaman. So we also have Curse of Tongues on ourselves, which means we don't outspeed the lightning bolts. And I'm giving like Argent Jesus to the elemental shaman. Like everything's coming up crits within reason. Okay, so we've managed to survive the first crit with 800 hit points. I want to see if we survive the next one. But we had to keep our life total at about 50%. And this is with the Argent Jesus. So we got knocked down to we were at 15% life after that nuke came in, basically, or maybe even 10%. We had 1,000. Yeah, we're at less than 10%. We were at 8% life. We had 1,000 hit points left over. We got a flash of light off before the next lightning bolt came in. The next lightning bolt crit our ass. And we're only down 200 HP total. What's going to happen with the next lightning bolt? I don't know if the lightning bolt gets off before. I need the charts, and I need a moment to think here. Okay, so what happened? There was almost 3 seconds before we got blasted by a lightning bolt. Which means that I'm 0.6 seconds into the next 2.4 second flash of light, which means that my flash of light is my next flash of light is outspeeding their next lightning bolt. Holy shit. My next flash of light is coming down at 1.8 seconds because, plus 0.6 seconds or whatever, and they're doing it at 1.9. Yeah, so it goes off before it happens. Let's say if it didn't go off before, then I would be dead because I'd be losing like 1,400 hit points. But literally, it'll be like, plus 1,200 hit points from the flash of light. And then it'll be minus 1,400 from this critical lightning bolt. And you can see we're slowly dying. I think the next lightning bolt kills us. Right? Like the next lightning bolt kills us. So in order to die, this is a paladin that was at 50% life. He's got Curse of Tongues on him. Don't ask me why. Everything out of the shaman is critting. He got lightning bolt crit. He got earth shock crit. And then 2 lightning bolts have crit him back to back. And then it's going to take a 3rd lightning bolt crit to kill him. Because if it doesn't crit, it's only going to do 50. Actually, the next one kills you just straight up. Because it's like 750 damage. No, that's not true. Because, is it true? Alright, let me check. 1,500 damage base divided by 2 because of Argent Defender minus 80. Am I alive? No, I died. Okay. So 51% apparently means I'm alive still, and 50% means I'm dead. But it just means that you keep your hit points at certain levels. What is more likely to happen is, let's say you actually have your 4,000 HP complement and things are coming up crit for the Elemental Shaman. So Elemental Shaman's Lightning Bolt's critting you. You take 5,500 damage. This is not the nightmare scenario. We're out of the nightmare scenario that we still managed to survive pretty comfortably with some logic and reason. And yeah, and 500. Yeah, this is what he does with the Earth Shock Lightning Bolt. And then I divide this by 2 because Argent Defender is a bitch. And my 4,000 hit points suddenly went down by like 2,750. Is that what it was? So I'm at like 1,250 hit points. I'm like, ow, that kind of hurt. Let me charge up a Flash of Light. My Flash of Light in the non-nightmare scenario of having Curse of Tongues on me outspeeds their next lightning bolt of 0.9 seconds. And we end up in this routine again of either my Flash of Light critted, which means I gain hit points, or their lightning bolt critted, meaning I lose hit points. So if their lightning bolt crits, I lose 200 hit points, then more flashes of light, and if their lightning bolt crits, then I lose 200 hit points, and then more flashes of light, and then earth shocks come in, and blah, 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 blah. And if everything comes up crit for the elemental shaman, he'll eventually fucking kill you. But that's probably not going to happen, and which means you're going to give no shits as a paladin, and eventually your partner is going to be like, hey, mind if I heal him as well? Or you're just going to like slap him in the mouth with your 6-second stun and be like, shut the fuck up for a second, I need to heal myself. These paladins are unkillable, bro. Argent Defender, you are unkillable. The healing to damage tempo is... I just want to delete this. Is that okay? You just want to do one at a time. All right. Is actually quite insane. Okay, what's next? Mind Blast. Every 6 seconds for 1,500 can crit for 2,300. Well, the fucking lightning bolts into Earth Shock crit, the highest damaging crit thing that could possibly hit us, on top of being having tongues on us, wasn't going to do shit, then this Shadow Priest ain't going to do shit. Shadow Priest doesn't have enough raw DPS to really threaten you. Mind Flay actually did a pretty good DPS, but if it's just like classic World of Warcraft, you can cleanse that off of you. Is a channeled ability. Being a channeled ability, if you're physically on top of the Shadow Priest and beating them, then they just can't Mind Flay you at all, because you're just going to... the pushback is just going to completely delete it. The vast majority of the Shadow Priest damage came from Shadow Word Pain, which is cleansable for you, so it's like whatever. Same problem with the SL Warlocks. The vast majority of their damage is coming from the dots, and you can just remove the dots, so they're stuck with their absolutely pathetic Shadow Pult DPS, which isn't going to do absolutely jack shit. Mass Dispels, heavy mana cost in the Mass Dispels, subject to Stoicism. So it might not even be worth it for them to use Mass Dispels. So for example, if I use Bubble as a Paladin to shrug something off, and they're like, oh, Mass Dispel it. And there's a 30% chance, probably more. Might be an arcane spell, might be a holy spell. I don't know what it counts as for its base resistance ability. But there's probably like a 35, and maybe they got some pen gear. So it's like a 30% chance from Stoicism. Let's find Stoicism really fast here. 30% chance. Reduce the chance your spells will be dispelled by an additional 30%. Your spells will be dispelled by 30%. So there's a 30% chance that the wings don't get dispelled. The bubble doesn't get dispelled. The second pair of wings doesn't get dispelled. The second bubble doesn't get mass dispelled. But let's say that we force this poor Shadow Priest to dispel everything, and for some reason, Stoicism is not a factor, even though it should. Statistically, one of them should fail, so it means rather than casting 4 of these, he's got to cast 5 of these. Each of these costs 734 fucking mana. Holy shit. 7, 3, 4 times 5. Bleh. That's like over a third of their mana bar. That's like 40% of their mana bar. Just gone, trying to get off mass dispels that it doesn't really matter. Like, pfft, good luck. Like, either you let the wings and the bubble run its course, or you go for the mass dispels and just absolutely waste mana. You can kings yourself and blessing yourself all over the place, especially with like Judgment of Wisdoms and stuff like that. The dispels aren't worth it for them. I'm not seeing any... What I'm saying is, I'm not seeing any reprieve from their lack of DPS in the fact that they can mana burn you and dispel your shit. I'm not seeing any reprieve from that. The Disc Priests are a bit more scary because they got the mana burn. They have the mass dispel on a 0.5 seconds, but I still think it's not mana worth it. And they can theoretically be paired with something that's actually scary to the Argent Defender Paladins, such as the Lightning Shaman. But a Lightning Shaman with a Disc Priest is going to have mana issues out their ass, because this Shaman has got mana issues already. He's not going to be able to sustain for very long, even though it's not bad with the Lightning Bolts. The Disc Priest is definitely not going to be able to sustain under these conditions. They're hoping that the mana burn will be sufficient combined with the burst damage, and that they're technically a double potential healer spec. But the Spirit and the Judgment of Wisdoms alone are just going to keep them these two Argent Defender Paladins in the absolute... Like, you're going to have so much mana to work with, you're going to be like, what the fuck is this class? So I don't see it working. I think another comp I heard about was like Disc Priest and Warlock, and the idea behind it is they're both mana burning and mana draining, or like the DPS just isn't there, and they're not going to be able to keep these paladins anywhere near out of the blue. It's actually kind of intense and insane. To give you an idea, in the amount of time it takes a disc priest to cast mana burn, any one of the two paladins is probably going to be have regenerated like 300 mana. And I'm not kidding about that, because you're going to be rolling about like 400 MP5, 300 MP5, something like that. And in 2 seconds, you're going to gain back like, 150 mana just from spirit regen. And then, you got like a weapon swing in there and probably got some mana back from Judgment and Seal of Wisdom or whatever. You're not ooming. They can't keep you out of the blue. And what's worse is they has to mana burn one paladin, then mana burn the other paladin, then mana burn this paladin, then mana burn that paladin. And, oh god, I can't keep them out of the blue. So, really, really bad. Really bad. Alright, let's see. Frost Mage. Frost Mage had a Wombo combo, and the Wombo combo, I think the hardest hitting was Fire Blast crit and Frostbolt crit right here. So they can Wombo combo you for 5,000, but they end up in an even worse situation than the Shaman, right? So they're being outspeeded unless you got Curse of Tongues on you, which might be a thing. I don't know. Frost Mage, Warlock, I hear is a comp. So unless you've got Curse of Tongues on you, and these guys, a Frost Mage and a Warlock actually do have the CC to lock out at least one of the Paladins, which is nice. Like, they fear one of the Paladins, and then they sheep the other Paladin, and they start nailing the Paladin with the fear on him. But if the fear breaks prematurely, he's just going to cleanse the other Paladin away. Maybe they try to get them in a counter spell, so that they're working off of silence as opposed to fear. Maybe it's a silence into a fear play. But the major issue with that, of course, is that one of the paladins is going to have proved concentration aura, so the reduction of the silence is going to be reduced by like 30%. I just don't really see it working. The two of them might be able to scrape together enough theoretical potential Wombo combo DPS to threaten one of the paladins. But if the paladins are like mindful of this and they keep their health totals like 60% or more, I just don't see it happening. The danger, of course, is if your health total is low, like we saw with the Elemental Shaman, if your health total is like 50%, when the Wombo combo comes in successfully, it knocks you super far deep into your Argent Defender mode. Whereas if you're like, 60% life or 70% life when the Wombo combo hits, then your Argent Defender mode is almost completely activated, and there's no chance to really get the damage in before the CCs wear off. And what's worse with these two paladins is, like, how does that combat actually work? So it's like, when you think about it, like, let's say there's a warlock and a mage and a warlock, right? Hence that we have Curse of Tongues on us, and hence we can't outspeed with our Flash of Lights the 2.2 second Frostbolt cast. If it's any other class with the mage that doesn't have tongues, then we're going to be outspeeding the 2.2 second cast, which means that Argent Defender is just going to completely shut down any DPS that they actually have, because, yeah, again, we're going to be cutting this number down to about 1,500, and our Flash of Lights are going to be healing for like 1,200, so maybe more, maybe we gear a little differently. So it's going to take them 1,000,000 years to actually cut us down while we're in Argent Defender mode. And on top of that, the mechanics of the matchup baffle me, because the Paladins have 2 PvP trinkets to play with, then they have 2 bubbles to play with, then there's a good chance that their PvP trinket... They have 2 stuns to play with, 2 6-second stuns that on a 35-second cooldown each, which means they have a 6-second stun available every 14 seconds, all right, to heal off of. They have all of this to either heal off of or to counter enemy CC, is what I'm saying. And so the mage needs to like sheep one paladin and silence the other paladin or fear the other paladin. And then all that has to happen is one of the paladin like trinkets and cleanses the other paladin immediately, and those 2 CCs are gone. So then they have to wait to do it again and trinket, and they have to go through 4 of those before you can even get any CC to actually stick on the damn paladins. Their PvP trinkets are likely coming up very shortly, so you have a very small window to really take advantage of this. The Paladins can actually play around this small window of time when their PvP trinkets are on cooldown and coming back up again to be a bit more, either play a bit more defensively or to be a bit more aggressive with their usage of the stuns to try to bridge the gap. More importantly, the only way you're forcing out a trinket from any one of these paladins is you got to be doing two things. You had to CC both paladins simultaneously, and then you had to put enough DPS into them to actually force one of them to trinket and cleanse his buddy so that they could actually heal themselves. Like, that is the scenario. And I don't see a mage and a warlock going through all four of those anti-CCs with enough mana left over and enough health and whatnot left over to get the job done in that small window that they have to get the job done. And in classes that actually would have enough resources and DPS to theoretically make that DPS window happen, they're not doing enough damage, especially with Argent Crusader, to really get the job done. And it gets even worse because the two paladins know that this window of vulnerability is coming up, and so they'll switch from offense to a defensive style. Up come the blessing of sanctuaries. They start healing themselves a lot more. They keep their mana bars like super full, so they're not sitting at 33% mana anymore. Or, 33% hit points because they know this window of vulnerability is coming up. And they're just going to sit out the window of vulnerability at 100% life totals. So if you're pulling the trigger trying to kill these paladins during this window of CC vulnerability, you're doing it through their ungodly amounts of effective hit points. These numbers here are effective hit points for spellcasts. So you're trying to cut through 9k effective hit points. 20k effective hit points to kill one of these stupid fucking paladins within this very short CC window. And the only pairs of classes that can actually theoretically accomplish this, they either don't have the DPS, they're going to run out of mana, or they don't have the CC. It's like one of those three scenarios is just the thing. Maybe two elemental shamans, but even then it's they're going to super fast. So you just play super defensively against them. You're like, yeah, whatever, we'll just heal ourselves and stay alive, and you're going to trying to kill us. And worst case scenario, we have to bubble. Our PvP trinkets are useless in this matchup, but yeah, we've had to bubble. Whoop-de-fucking do. Do it again. Then they're going to in 2 minutes. You're just going to murder them. So I don't know. I don't know how you kill these two piece-of-shit paladins. There's other weird things like, how do rogues deal with this? We're going to go double rogue. And it's okay, well, you sap one paladin, and then the other paladin, you jump on him, and you get some CC, you get some stun time in him where he can't do anything. The moment he comes out of the stun, he's either bopping the sap off of the... because I think sap is physical in TBC. It's not magical, so it's not a cleansing thing. He's just going to bop the sap off of his fellow paladin if it hasn't worn off already. And then the other paladin's going to start healing him with a fucking bop! Which means that, what are you going to do? Blind him to interrupt his flash of light? Out comes the cleanse, and it's just oh, God, how do we shut this down? An Argent Defender mode. Argent Defender with Holy Shield against two rogues. You might be able to literally go toe-to-toe against two rogues and win, and I'm not even joking about that. As an Argent Defender Holy Shield Paladin. So I don't know. I don't know what comp gives the two Argent Defender Paladins a hard time. If they're being smart about their gearing, and they're being smart about their coordination, and they're being smart about Argent Defender, and they're being smart about, they're just being smart in general. I think these Paladins are just going to grind their enemies into absolute pulp. And you're going to have this weird flow of DPS and combat where it's you might start the battle being super defensive in your orientation. Okay, these guys got a lot of mana, they got a lot of CDs, let's keep our hit points high, blah, 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 blah. Once their resources start wearing down, then you can switch from a defensive playstyle to an offensive playstyle, keeping in mind, of course, that using your stuns primarily for healing in the defensive playstyle, and then you're using your stuns for offensive purposes in the offense playstyle. The offense playstyle also sees both paladins dropping into Argent Defender mode. And the reason for this is because your time on target against your enemy is much better when you're an Argent Defender because of how effective Flash of Light is. So, for example, say you're fighting a rogue and a druid, right? Well, the rogue's not going to do enough damage to, especially when Argent Defender activates, rogue or a warrior, both. You're going to want to go ham on the druid while in Argent Defender mode. And the reason for this is because it's a tempo thing. It's like when the two of you have to stop and heal, you're only going to be healing for like a couple seconds, like 3 seconds at the most. 1.5 seconds will be more common, and then you're right back on top of the druid. Like druid ain't going nowhere. So you didn't really have to stop, and you just don't want a Holy Light, is what I'm saying. Because Holy Light takes like 2.5 seconds, and then if it gets like pummeled or kicked or something like that, then you have to suffer a million years for the spell lock, and then you got to charge it up again, and it takes a million years to get off a Holy Light, but flashes of light are much more effective. And if they're not doing enough damage to you to threaten you when you're on Argent Defender mode, then you might as well take the tempo advantage, right? You might as well get more DPS out of the fact that you're allowed to Flash of Light now as opposed to Holy Light now, and you're still unfucking killable. If the enemy has more resources, then you're going to keep your health totals high, right? Because they're actually threatening. Mage Warlock has some threat potential. Double Shaman has some threat potential. Priest Shaman has some threat potential. So we're just going to stay at like 100% fucking life total at just about all the time as much as possible. And it's your move, dickhead. Try to get through our CCs. We're still going to pump as much DPS into you as possible. And I don't see them doing that or being able to accomplish that. Is there anything else I want to talk about? We talked about the healing tempo. We talked about the healing matchups. We talked about how much our enemy can sustain versus how much DPS we're pumping out. We talked about the ebb and flow of the DPS, like what playing smart looks like versus what playing dumb looks like. As these two paladins. I'm not sure how easily the two paladins can be kited. This is a thing that may or may not be an issue. Maybe one of the paladins uses a Mug of Hurt, which would be absolutely hilarious. Maybe both paladins decide they want to use a Mug of Hurt. There's some other options on the table as far as gearing is concerned, but I'm not super sold on yet, which would be like certain items that do mana drain, like Black Grasps of the Destroyer or Soul Breaker from Strat Undead. Not super sold on if those are any good though, but if both paladins have the Soul Breakers and Black Grasps of the Destroyer, you are negating like it's like 90 MP5 from your target or some shit like that. So you're actually burning metric shit tons of their mana away. I think you're better off just pumping more DPS into them, but it is interesting. The Black Grasp of the Destroyer might be better, far better than the Soulbreaker, but Soulbreaker might actually have a spell power ratio like it did in Classic World of Warcraft. Soulbreaker actually had a pretty decent spell power ratio, but then other weapons were just better. Edward the Odd, Akari Manslayer, Mug of Hurt, all those weapons had better performance than Soulbreaker, so I never talked about Soulbreaker. But Soulbreaker actually did have a spell power ratio behind it, so it might actually be a thing in TBC if it still has the spell power ratio behind it. Yeah, so you could theoretically jump on the enemy classes and have some pretty decent mana burn. Other options are, since you're so fucking unkillable, why not strip out some of your pieces for resist gear and lean more heavily into the unkillableness and translate that unkillableness into more DPS on your target because you're not having to stop and heal yourself as often. That might be a synergy that actually works. Not really sure what you would replace those pieces of gear with. What else? Oh, right. I forgot to factor in that when you jump on the druid, you're probably putting Vindication on them, which means you're cutting their spirit down by like 15%. least I think this reduces all attributes by 15%. Leave it to Blizzard to be like, reduces targets attributes, but really it's like their strength and agi and like nothing else. And I would just be like, fuck you. In which case you wouldn't take this at all. You take something else. Double warriors aren't going to do anything. Double rogues aren't going to do anything. I don't know. I don't know what picks on this double Pally Argent Defender comp. I'm a little scared of Warlock Ellie Shaman just because, you know, Curse of Tongues is a thing. It depends on the Warlock. So I think what might be the biggest problem for this comp, which you never really see anywhere else, would be like a proper Ellie Shaman paired with like a proper DPS style Warlock, like a Destro Lock, like a Warlock that is not fucking around with their Shadow Bolts. It's like we're not relying on dots. We're not relying on staying alive for a significant amount of time. We're just going to be a nuke machine. Elemental Shaman, and that might actually be kind of terrifying. Maybe Holy Shock Paladin and Elemental Shaman might give these guys a rough time. But I don't know, man. It's like there's two different modes for this Paladin in the arena. There's the, we know you have the damage, therefore we're going to be super defensive, keeping our HP totals super high, and force you to deal with that shit through all of our anti-CC. Or they're letting their HP drop below Argent Defender mode to go to maximize their DPS, because they have far less downtime for healing, and going ham on you. And you're not going ham on such compositions that would be threatening to you when they have high mana levels. You're just not doing it. So it's like, I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, a Warlock with Shadow Bolts and an Elemental Shaman that wasn't fucking around, you'd have to keep or Warlock with Shadow Bolts that wasn't screwing around, and an Elemental Shaman that also wasn't screwing around. You'd have to keep your HP totals really high, but they're going to run out of mana. Like, the Shaman's not going to be in the blue forever. So I don't think they can do it. I don't think if everything coming out of them was a crit and they blasted one Paladin down into Argent Defender mode, I don't think it's going to work. I think he's just going to be like, oh, that was cute. I'm going to heal myself now, and maybe you force out a bubble. Maybe. And then the partner Paladin's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to heal too. And they're like, I'll fear you. It's like cleanse. And nah, seriously, I'm going to heal. Is that okay with you? Or they just trinket it and they start healing? I don't know. They're going to run out of mana. So I don't know. I don't know what beats this comp. I don't know what beats double Pally, Argent Defender, time on target, sustain, spell power, whatever the fuck this is. I don't know what beats this. So this is pure theory crafting. Maybe I take this into arena in TBC and I get absolutely smucked. But I don't know, man. I'm doing my research over here and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I don't know. Where's the other one? I want the healer one. Yeah, we don't need to save that. Yeah, I don't see it. I'm just not seeing it. I think what might be a problem, however, is if the druids start specking in such a way where they start going super heavy on the spirit, like they're just like, okay, I'm gonna go for a sustain class and I'm gonna force this paladin. I'm gonna force the paladins to deal with the fact that I am basically have infinite mana. Which I don't know if we could. I'm not. They might be able to get enough spirit to outperform our DPS. I'm not sure what their partner would be. Maybe their partner's a warlock. If their partner was anything that, maybe their best chance is a partner like a priest, like a druid and like a resto druid and a resto priest that are going super heavy on the spirit. They're never going to run out of mana. They are playing a bit of the mana burn game just to keep the paladin DPS as low as possible, and they're never going to die. But even under these conditions, it's like, okay, the best you manage to achieve against this pally comp is neither side can kill the other. Huh. Is it a draw? Do we just like, I think at that point you would basically just contact, you'd end up in the arena with the other team for like a million years. You'd be in there for like, 50, 60 minutes. Eventually you'd be in there and you just like contact them on Discord or some shit like that and be like, hey, why don't we just win trade? Because this is clearly a 50-50. And so you'd give them like the win for the first time, and the next time you guys meet each other, you're like, whatever, we'll give the other guy the win this time. You're just going to start win trading. Like that's the only way around it, because you guys are literally unkillable. So unless you just want to stay in the arena forever and ever and ever, you guys just... What might be interesting, though, is that if you know they're coming in with the spirit and all that stuff, no, that's not even going to work. I was going to say maybe you gear in such a way that you get more DPS in, but the problem is that the more you gear for the DPS, the less blue you're going to have. And it's really the fact that both sides have infinite blue regeneration that is the big problem. But yeah, that would be a comp that's just trying not to die forever and ever and ever not to die. And they're going to run into these paladins that are like, hey, we just also never ever die. But don't feel bad. If you guys were both burst classes, it would still be we never die. So congratulations. I don't know. I don't know what beats this comp. But yeah, this is what I'm currently theory crafting over. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about Holy Shock, because I know some of you guys are probably interested in that. So from what I hear, the Holy Shock build looks something like this. I think we put 5 out of 5 in Righteousness. I'm not even kidding. Probably a little bit of anti-fear. I don't really care about a loop. Oh, we want it for the free crit. Yeah, fuck, alright. 5, free crit. Holy Power. 1 point Holy Shock. Alright, it's pretty scuffed, but I got some of the things I want, I guess. This improves your Seal of Righteousness damage, which is a big deal. I hear you go down for, at least one of the Holy Shock Paladins, I imagine, goes down for Bless. You definitely want the 3. What am I talking about? Heads on down for all damage done, blah, blah, blah. Alright, whatever. We'll roll with it. Heads down for this. Amount of damage caused, Sanctuary increased by 2%. Yeah. Heads down for improved Blessing of Sanctuary. I got 7 points left over. What do I do? Guess it really doesn't matter, does it? Better Holy Light heals, cleanses, increase your spell damage and healing by a percent of my intellect, which intellect's not that high, so whatever. It's not that bad, but whatever. I don't know what else you pick. Oh, Vengeance, right. They were talking about picking up Vengeance. So what do I need? Ooh. 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I guess I need to strip points out of here and put points in here. See how many points I can strip out. Yeah, okay, we're still a little excessive. 5 points. Pick up like 5 points in Vengeance. Gives your judgment spell 30% mana. I guess mana is a little bit of an issue. We could probably pick that up, I guess. What am I stripping? Do I strip Crusader? Do I strip this? Can I strip anything? Doesn't look like it. So I can still strip points. That's good. Strippy, 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 strippy. We're stripping, boys. Put that out of there. Take you out of here. Put a point in there. So now I need points. Alright. Boop. Nope. Boop. Alright. Yeah, I guess I can't do it. That's lovely. Yeah, but I hear what they do is they pick up, like, they go for, like, Vengeance. They try to get Holy Shock. They try to get the Sanctuary Aura. The other Paladin probably does something else. I don't like this for a number of reasons. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's about the pressure. So what I hear is that double Holy Shock Paladin comes out and they super pressure their opponents with the metric shit ton of damage that they can actually do. Like, they actually do a lot. Your Judgments of Righteousness, like mine were hitting for like 1,000 damage, right? But they're getting certain perks, like they're getting times like a 15% damage bonus from Righteousness. They're getting a 10% damage bonus from the Aura. They're getting possibly a 15% damage bonus from Vengeance. Let me just double check. Vengeance actually does this. I was talking to or some Paladin commented on my channel on the subject. 5% bonus to physical and holy damage. Okay, yeah. So stack up to 3 times 15. So let's go crazy. Allow us to go insane. So 15 from improved righteousness, 15 from vengeance, 10 there. So this is a 0.4. Ugh, it's still not that great. Yeah, so they can do like, 1,400 from the judgment damages. I imagine that their holy shocks are coming out Holy Shock wasn't that impressive either. Holy Shock was maybe doing 1,500 or 2K criticals. If my VPN's up, I'll go check. If my VPN is up, I will go check. The amount of damage they're able to do wasn't really impressing me. I was much more concerned about the fact that our Argent Defender is giving you both the talents in the prot tree, the minus 10% damage from spells, right? And Argent Defender are giving you a metric shit ton of extra healing. They're giving you a metric shit ton of extra. What the hell am I thinking about? Yeah, I can't. You can tell my multitasking sucks a dick here. We're still doing the one ring stuff. I'm just interested in the ratio, aren't I? Not really. Haste rating, damage and healing. Vengeful Gladiator. Is it Lamellar? No, this is Lamellar. Put on the Lamellar belt. Not Lamellar. Spell damage, okay. Chance your spells, spell damage, yeah, fine. Get rid of this one ring. It's got this shitty spirit cloak. Swap that out for something. Let's try to get up to like 1,000 spell power. I know I can do it. I'm missing wizard oil. I don't want this crap. Put on some wizard oil, that might help. I'm missing pants. That might help. Lightbringer leggings. Damage and healing. That's some healing shit. Where's the Lamellar? Lamellar. Don't I have Lamellar pants? Pantaloons? May see some pants around here? Holy shit. Increase healing and magical effects. What is this crap? Healing done. Oh, okay, yeah. What's the healing gear? Lamellar? Yep, not the Lamellar. Seriously, where the fuck are my pants? Oh, there's my pants. Jesus Christ. Yeah, 990. Yeah, let's go. Lamellar, Lawbringer, healing. Yeah. Okay. Lamellar. Sweet. Okay, we're getting up. Oh, wait, that was a nerf. That was a nerf. What the fuck? Why? Oh, because these things are just better? Fuck you, Lamellar. Don't understand life anymore. Alright, well, close enough. We'll even pop the trinket. Where is the dummy? There's the dummy. I don't have Holy Shock. What am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? Maybe it's the other Paladin. Paladin? No. I guess I just got a respec. Anyways, I was trying to explain why I don't like it. Okay, so the reason why they're going super ham with the Holy Shock Paladins is because they simply cannot afford to be forced to use Holy Shock defensively. Because once you're forced to use Holy Shock defensively, you're gonna be stun locked into. Which doesn't learn my talents. Thank you very much. You're basically going to be stuck using a Holy Shock defensively the entire time, and if you calculate it, like what Argent Defender is actually giving you, Argent Defender. Let's actually get Holy Shock so we can see it really quickly here. That's going to take a while. Yeah, the lag. What am I trying to say? From a defensive perspective, like if you were just trying to heal yourself with Holy Shock, like you weren't using it offensively, Argent Defender is actually superior. Like it gives you as much benefit as Holy Shock does, if not more. I don't want that, but it doesn't matter. We're just going for Holy Shock. It gives you as much benefit, if not more, than Holy Shock healing yourself. I don't know, I'm just clicking points, bros. There we go. Give me that shit. Gimme. All right. This is without any bonuses, so no 10% aura, no 15% this, no 15% that. Oh, this is a shock, not a judgment. Boom. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think it hits as much as the righteousness. Practically, yep, about 1,100 each. But this is with an improved righteousness. Interesting. All right, let's throw up. How much is this? Like 200? 220? Alright. And I got a trinket here I can use too. Let's throw down the judgment. Let's pop the trinket. Let's 2000 crit. Not bad. Want some justice. 2, 1. Blam. Oh, that was the melee hit. Okay. Combat log. Judgment of Righteousness, 1500. Shock. What the? Shock. Judge. Okay. Like 1200 each in that case. But this is like spell power 1200. Yeah. Almost like a 1-to-1 spell power ratio, it looks like, practically. Blast it one more time here. Blam. Yeah, whatever. Oh, I wanted to check out the healing. That's what I wanted to do. Plus healing 1400. La 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 la. If I am forced to use it defensively, what does it heal for? And boom. 1500? It's almost... Yeah, it's not much more. Ugh. Alright, let's get out of here. Alright, so as we can look at it, let's say both paladins are forced to use their Holy Shocks defensively. As we saw there, it was like 1500, but I had some plus healing gear on. It probably would be less. I imagine it would be closer to, we'll say, 1300 in the healing department. But the actual damage that's coming out of it, well, the damage, the damage will be significant as well. So if I'm forced to use it as like a 1300 heal, times 2, like both of us are forced to use it as a heal, it's worth 2,600 hit points. But then I come over here. Oh, right, I deleted that thing. My bad. But if I'm in Argent Defender mode with like 4,000 hit points and I'm taking like 50% reduced damage, 50% reduced damage is like times 2, right? Like, or 40% reduced damage. I think 40% reduced damage is a 40% damage reduction. Translates into an 80% increase in effective hit points. I think that's how the math works out. Yeah, that's very lovely. So it's like 3,200. Yeah, so just being in Argent Defender mode gives me so many more effective hit points to play with. It's like I'm defensively healing myself Holy Shock. In fact, it's even superior to healing myself Holy Shock defensively from the Shockadins. What does this mean? Well, it gets worse because they don't have the additional talent points, the extra 10% damage reduction from Improved Shield of Righteousness and Spell Warding. So they just have greatly reduced effective hit points. I could probably calculate it really fast. So let's say they have 1,200 hit points because they have 12k hit points because they have less stamina, right? Because they're not in the prot tree. They don't get the 10% damage reduction. They might have a bit more resilience. Maybe so, maybe not. If they're smart, they would be gearing with some spirit gear and saying, fuck the resilience. And try for a combination, a middle ground between sustain capability and between burst damage capability. Just because you'd want to work the ebb and flow of the combat as 2 Holy Shock Paladins. So you start off defensive until the enemy's CCs and mana starts getting low, and then you are allowed to ramp up your DPS safely, which Spirit, respecking into Spirit is going to, or gearing into Spirit is going to give you that opportunity much better. So they have like 12k effective hit points, and then from like a Holy Shock, or even 2 Holy Shocks. Both Paladins are now forced to heal with their Holy Shocks. We determined that was like an extra like 2,600 hit points. They got like 1,400 effective hit points. 14k, we'll say 15k and round it up. We'll be generous. They have like 15k effective hit points compared to the Argent Defender Paladin that had like over 20k effective hit points. Like, what the fuck? Right? Like, the Argent Defender Paladin is like 9,000 hit points at like 10%, which, if you don't know, that's like almost a 12% increase. If you got like 10% damage reduction, it translates to like the 12%, I think. Maybe it's a little bit more. So 1, 2. So yeah, it's like 10,000 hit points just before Argent Defender, and then after Argent Defender, it's like, you know, that ratio goes up 1.8. Yeah, plus like 10 1,000 hit points or where the hell we were at before. Yeah, we don't give a shit, right? So it's like, from an offensive perspective, Holy Shock is superior, right? But from a defensive perspective, Argent Defender is superior. And the weird thing about Paladin DPS is that defensive, how do I put this? Defensive bonuses, the less we need to stop and heal ourselves, translates into DPS. Right? There is a strong synergy between not having to heal ourselves, allowing us to be more offensive with our abilities. So I guess the Holy Shock Paladins would be DPS superior only under circumstances where they did not have to use their Holy Shocks defensively. But since they're not Argent Defender Paladins, and since they're not just prop Paladins in general, they're 100% going to have to be using them defensively. And then, of course, there's the argument to be said that it's not like Reckoning isn't a thing, right? It's not like Blessing of Sanctuaries. Oh, God, I forgot Blessing of Sanctuary, yeah. So, never mind. We're not at 1,700 bonus hit points. We're more like at like 19k effective hit points. Holy shit. Yeah, Blessing of Sanctuary is absolutely not fucking around in TBC. Like, it has to do with, like, the math. It's like, in Classic World of Warcraft, it's reducing, like, 24 damage in a world where you're getting bitch slapped for, like 300 damage from warriors, 250 damage from warriors, and now all of a sudden it's like 80 in a world where you're getting hit for like 500, which is like a big increase. And then Argent Defender mode activates, and then it effectively like damn near doubles the effectiveness of Blessing of Sanctuary, and we're also able to have Holy Shield now, and it's just like, oh god, Blessing of Sanctuary is blech. Amazing. Anyways, from a DPS perspective, it's not like Reckoning is not a thing, and if both of you are Reckoning Paladins, someone's going to proc Reckoning, right? Reckoning is going to be there, and every time Reckoning procs, it's like that Paladin in particular's DPS goes up by like 70% temporarily or some shit like that, and God help you if it's like a rogue chewing on your butt, or if it's a warrior thinking that cleaving is a good idea against these two Paladins, because Reckoning is just going to be going off all over the place, you know, blah, 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 blah. What's really nice about this build, too, is let's talk about Blood Elf versus Alliance. The Holy... my brain's dying over here. I've been talking for over 2 hours. Of course my brain's dying. The Argent Defender Paladin, right? And indeed, any Paladin that is going for a holy playstyle, like a spell power playstyle, even like the Holy Shock builds, double Holy Shock, is... The Alliance Paladin is going to benefit from spell power far more than the Blood Elf Paladins, just because we can actually seal twist Vengeance into Righteousness, into Vengeance, into Righteousness. You're not doing it for the added damage, you're doing it primarily to keep the dot on the target. And even though you could do it for the added damage, but our weapon swings are probably going to be so quick that it doesn't even matter. Depends on how Seal of Righteousness works. Yeah, if Seal of Righteousness works like it does on the Endless private server, then you're probably better off going with a slower weapon. But it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how Judgment of Wisdom pulls back mana. Depends on if you want the pushback or not. It's just like, it depends on so many factors. But what the hell am I trying to say here? Right, Blood Elf versus Alliance. Vengeance, seal twisting becomes much more viable and useful the slower the weapon you're using. The faster the weapon, it becomes almost impossible to seal twist, and you're just locking yourself on global cooldowns way too often, and you're completely, in both cases, you're screwing yourself out of spirit regen almost completely if you're doing it purely for damage. But doing it to keep up a 15-second dot is amazing, and the 15-second dot has spell power ratio behind it, so it's just an additional thing that gets spell power ratio behind it for the Paladin, on top of all the bonuses that I've talked about before. Blood Elf Paladins, however, have a really interesting synergy in the sense that their burst is far more deadly, because both of them can stun the target for 9 seconds in total. God help you if either one of those paladins has picked up the Zandalari neck piece that increases the duration by 0.5 seconds. Lol, kick W. And then they can both Arcane Torrent to really increase the time on target. And if you actually calculate how much damage either Holy Shock or Argent Defender Paladins can do in a CC window, in 9-second CC window, they can just about global. They can 100 to 0 just about any class in the game, practically. Like they could just if you grab a hold of a druid for 9 seconds and nobody's interrupting either of the paladins, which I find to be inconceivable. But if you grab a hold of the druid and you have a hold of him for 9 seconds and you're just pumping all the DPS into him, the damage is quite intense. He might be alive, he might be dead. There's a really good chance he just fucking died inside that 9-second window. The Blood Elf Paladins get to greatly exacerbate that window, so the window becomes much, much longer, which means that they got a better kill potential. But their overall grinding DPS, the DPS they can muster over time, is going to be significantly reduced. They also have Seal of Blood to play with, so you know they probably picked Blood Elf Paladin specifically to play with Seal of Blood, so they're off doing that anyways. But yeah, Alliance Paladin, Argent Defender. I swear it's going to be a thing. Let's reset this. I swear this. I think we're looking at a monster. And I did my research to try to make it as legit as possible. I think the more you think about this Paladin and the more you do your research and the more you do math, we are looking at an absolute winner as far as a Paladin spec is concerned in TBC. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I guess I'm the Vengeance or the Vindication Paladin as opposed to the Improved Concentration Paladin. 1, 2, 3. 2. Oh, right. Strip a point out of here, and boom. There we go. So again, we have the two Paladins. We got the Vindication Pally, and then we got the Improved Concentration Aura Pally. I'm not sure what the second Aura is going to be. You can, like, season to taste with the second Aura. You know, you got Concentration Aura and then, like, Armor Aura or some shit like that. Blessings. You're definitely going to probably go with Kings and Blessing of Sanctuary when early in the fights when you're just trying to wear down your opponent's resources. After your opponent's resources, and you keep your life totals high, especially against certain comps. When you don't feel threatened by the enemy comp, either it's been 2 minutes of fighting with you guys keeping your life totals high, or if it's just not a comp, like a melee comp that just doesn't scare you at all anyways, then down comes the Blessing of Sanctuary, and up goes the Blessing of Might, and you let your hit points drop into Argent Defender mode so that you can greatly reduce the amount of time you spend healing and maximize the amount of time and DPS that you do on your target. You also stop using stuns to heal yourselves, and you start using your stuns almost purely offensively. I imagine under those conditions, and it's going to get scary. It's going to get real fucking scary for the enemy team real fucking fast. I promise you. So anyways, I got to go playtest this myself a bit, but I really don't... my internet's so bad these days. It'll be like a month or so before I could even playtest it on the private servers, just because it's the Chinese New Year over here and everyone's on vacation. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think I'm just spinning yarn over here, that I'm just talking out my ass, or do you think... do you think I've successfully managed to bring time on target Paladin into TBC? Like, that is the question. Particularly in 2s and arenas. I think you could take 3 of these fucking Paladins into 3s, but there might be a better Paladin, a better either class to synergize with 2 of these monster Paladins, because again, one of the major selling points of the 2 Paladins in combination with each other is it's so hard to lock anything down in CCs, right? Like in a Warsong Gulch match, when there's 2 Paladins and a Priest, an entire enemy 10-man team struggles and bitches about their ability to keep 3 fucking classes CC'd. And of course they're bitching because only one of those jackasses needs to use either bubble or PvP trinket to get out of their shit to cleanse the other guy. So it's literally like they CC the priest and both paladins. The priest uses a trinket and cleanses one of the paladins that immediately cleanses the other paladin. And it's like, well, fuck. 3 CCs got countered by a trinket. And or the same thing happens with either the bubbles or the other trinkets. So they got to chew through 3 PvP trinkets and then 2 bubbles before they can shut down the healing, basically. It's really all or nothing. With 3 paladins, it might be overkill because you're looking at 3 bubbles and 3 CC, 3 PvP trinkets. Like, ain't nobody getting fucking CC'd. There are going to be no CC chains there. Somebody's going to be allowed to heal. So, I don't know. Maybe you go with a priest. Like, yeah, maybe a disc priest would be really good because, like, 2 paladins and a disc priest and 3s because you got the mana burn boy there, basically. Yeah, that might be a thing. Greatly aggravate the mana situation for your opponents. I imagine with 2 paladins around, the priest isn't going to die for shit. He's got like pain suppression and all that crap. And to be perfectly honest, even in 3s, even if the priest died horribly, right? Like, let's say you go into 3s and for some reason the bops aren't keeping the priest alive. For some reason pain suppression's not keeping the priest alive. For some reason your armor aura's not keeping the priest alive. For some reason they just focus the priest and they manage to grind him into pulp, right? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, that fucking priest has probably drained so much mana from the enemy team that even though it's 3v2 now, you're probably going to win. The 2 fucking paladins, the 2 Argent Defender paladins are probably going to grind through that 3-man team. And the reason for that is because in 3s, apparently the comp is always like something, something, and then melee. Something, something, and then melee. Usually like either, yeah, and healer, melee, I think is a thing. Yeah, but there's always at least one melee class. And the one melee class, the 2 Argent Defender paladins are going to give literally no shits about. And then the caster classes, if they're super out of mana, are going to be absolutely limp dick as well. So it'll be like you're fighting a 3s when they're low on a 2s when they're low on resources, as opposed to an actual 3s. You're not going to give a shit. So if you're planning on a 3s comp, I would think maybe 2 of these Pitbull Pallies and then 1 Discipline Priest would probably be absolutely amazing together. Maybe a Warlock might work, but dot up the enemy team. If the enemy team doesn't have cleanse, a Warlock would be good. I mean, you can keep the Warlock alive forever and you just dots up the enemy team like crazy. They can't cleanse that shit off of them, which is kind of why they always take a priest, I think, in 3s. Because the priest can technically cleanse the dots off of them, even though it's horrifyingly mana inefficient for them to do so. Yeah, I don't know, man. My research and my theory crafting is telling me this should be a thing. So I guess we'll find out. I guess come TBC, we'll find out. Anyways, Deus Volt boys, hope you're enjoying the theory crafting. Yeah, good luck.